Episode of Salt.
Hello.
And today's episode
Is called
Embarrassing Brett.
No.
Telling stories
No.
that humiliate
No.
Brett, making Brett look like a fool.
That's not what I called it.
Welcome
at
to
all.
another episode of Salt, where we use Brett as demeaning experiences to make spiritual lessons.
I titled this Living Out the Trash or Throwing Out the Trash.
Also known as Idiot Brett.
He can call it what he likes.
That's what you...
But right here in big letters, it says living out the trash or throwing out the trash.
Yes.
So how do we live our lives? God gives us these opportunities.
See, here
to
it comes.
do one
here it comes.
or the other.
Right here. This is what I'm talking about.
Yes, they're called, what was that?
What was what?
Character building experiences?
Character building
Experiences.
opportunities for character building.
Yes.
Yes, if you saw I think I put it on Facebook, where I said our car broke down. Is that the one we're talking about, or are we going to do the other one first? Which one goes first?
The first one, of course, is the first one that actually happened.
Okay.
You got to go in chronological
order.
Yes.
So we were on our way down from Omaha. We had been visiting Colby and Autumn and the new baby. And I guess we were there for, a week? Maybe about a little less than a week.
Yeah, a little less than a week, yeah.
And we were driving back down, and, as you do, you stop for gas and everything. And so one stop for gas, and then I went in, and I got out of the car, I went into the truck stop, I used the bathroom, I came back, and I couldn't find my phone. And I was like, that's weird, because we're using my phone for directions. So it had the map on it, that's been sitting there the whole time, and I had just actually posted to Facebook the restaurant that we had stopped at, and look, we got it. And I knew I had just done that, and I'm like, where the phone is? And I couldn't find it, and we looked all over the car, and Miranda's like, look in the bathroom, and I know I didn't go in with the phone, but just because Miranda wanted me, I went in, and I looked, and I asked, and actually I didn't think, it was a good thing I asked.
Right, yeah.
Because later, when I was still looking for it.
See, all things work together for good. All those little things just coming together as a puzzle piece.
Yeah, that's true. Because I asked the attendant, did anybody turn in an iPhone? No. And so looked everywhere. I didn't know what to do. And I'd even gone back to where we pumped gas, because Aspen was all like, you left it on the pump. Oh, you dropped it on the floor. You're an idiot.
Or on top of the car.
Yeah. So, no, I'm not dumb enough to lay it on top of the car and leave it there. I'm not going to do that. But what I did do, so a guy, you guy in one of the orange vests who works there came up and said, are you the one looking for an iPhone? They told me in the store someone was looking for an iPhone. And I said, yeah. And then he asked me, can you describe it? And I'm like, it's an iPhone. It's got and I had the second one. We had two of them that I used for doing salt. And I kind of showed it to him, and I think he just gave up. It's like, yeah, and here it is. And he said, a guy over there found it. And
he heard it ringing in.
Yeah, because I had gotten on Find My iPhone. If you own Apple and you don't know this, or if you don't own Apple, here's a reason to get. I got on the iPad, Find My Phone, and then you can make it, ding or ring or make a sound. And so I did that, and it was making a sound so you could find it. From the iPad, you can do that. And some guy out there pumping gas heard it in the trash can. And I guess he heard this buzzing and dinging and ringing and bleepings and beepings. Oh my. And in the trash can. And he pulled out and, it's an iPhone. And I guess he gave it to the attendant, who had been told, some guy's looking for an iPhone. And so he came over and said, yeah, here's your iPhone. So apparently, when I was pumping gas, I had gotten a couple of things to throw away, and I must have had them all in the same hand and dropped everything into the trash can without realizing I had dropped my iPhone in the trash can as well.
Yes.
There. See, now I've told the world.
Yes.
Now everyone knows.
Okay, well, spiritual analogy real quick here is, so Brett threw his perfectly good iPhone into the trash, right? And yet, do we throw out perfectly good opportunities to live out how the words of Jesus, how he would like us to live them out. And so, anyways, before we judge Brett too harshly, shall we say?
Too late.
I actually did something like similar to that a ton of years before when the kids were in elementary school. And, it was get the kids off to school in the morning, and everybody had grabbed their lunches, had their coats on, boots on, and I just had, I had grabbed my keys already, and I walked to the kitchen on the way out the door, and I thought, I'm going to grab this box of cereal off the table, and I'm going to put it into the cupboard on my way out the door, which is exactly what I did, except when I got out to the car, I didn't have my keys. Only about that point in time, I forgot I had actually picked up the keys, so I looked where I usually kept the keys, and they weren't there. And so, of course, I automatically blamed my youngest son, who was still preschool age, and loved to get up there and get the keys and play with them. And then, of course, he would just leave them lying randomly on the floor somewhere. And generally, it worked really well to have Randy and Ryan look for them because, being shorter than me and kids and whatnot, they were closer to the floor and whatnot. And so they would usually find it. But we looked for at least an hour, just solid looking, and couldn't find those keys anywhere. And finally I thought, okay, we're so late to school already. What I'm going to do is I'm going to retrace the last steps that I took before I left the house. And so I actually also looked in the fridge because I'd put something in the fridge. And then I was like, all right. And then I put a box of cereal, and they weren't in the fridge. So I said, I put a box of cereal in the cupboard. So I opened the cupboard, and there were the keys sitting right next to the box of cereal.
And you blamed Colby.
I
can't believe you. Ha! A poor, innocent little child. I actually used to do that to Aspen when she was a toddler. Something would happen. Aspen, why didn't you pay the taxes? It was an easy target.
Yes, but it was pretty regular par for the course for him to take those keys and go play with them. But
the thing is, I've done this off and on my entire life. Not a lot of, a bunch of times, but I have thrown stuff away before, just in that exact same way, where I'm emptying the car or something, and I have gone back and actually found it in the trash. I'm like, that was, But I'm betting, see, I don't have keys to our car now, and I'm thinking that's what happened. It's been almost a year now, but I you lose something, it's going to turn up. They always turn up. They'll turn up somewhere, and they never turned on. I did it there. And I think what happened was I put them in one of the little Walmart bags or something, to carry everything. And I just threw the bag away, and the keys were in it. So I'm thinking that's what happened.
Yeah.
But
one set of keys to the car. It's one key to the car.
Yeah, that's it. And isn't it frustrating now? Because it used to be you get 10 keys made to your car down at Walmart or something, and now with the keys, it's like, no, it's $200 for a replacement key because they have the special little FOB thing on it, and it's like, I would go back to where you could just pay $3 and get a key made. But see, I see it more as I didn't want to go back in the store, and I certainly didn't want to ask them about, because I knew my phone wasn't there. I knew it wasn't there, and I didn't want to say, go and ask the attendants, But had I not, they wouldn't have told him, and he wouldn't have been able to zero me out as the guy who was looking for the phone.
Yeah.
So one thing led to the next, and
it's pride that keeps us from doing those sorts of things.
Yeah,
it really is.
So yeah, I guess the question is a good question. Fun to look back on your life and go, how many, in what ways has God, protected or helped out us when we're being not as intelligent as we could be?
Yeah, and in the meantime, they are those opportunities to live out the words of Jesus, rather than...
Well, and to, go back to the, oh my gosh, nobody's any better than anybody else. We're all, we're all on the same level of need of, love and forgiveness and grace and mercy, because, we all do dumb things.
Yes, we do.
Yeah, maybe different dumb things, but we all do dumb things.
Yeah, so that's why I titled what we're talking about, Taking Out the Trash or Living Out the Trash. Mm-hmm. And we're talking about trash because both of the things that happened to us on the trip were related to trash. And so I'm going to let Brett tell the next story as well.
Well, it happened to you.
It did happen to me.
I mean, the beginning of it, but you were driving.
Yeah.
And you were, go ahead, you can tell.
No, go ahead.
Well, Miranda was driving, and that in and of itself was a character building for me. And so...
Well, that can't be helped.
That can't be helped.
No.
She's a good driver. She's safer than I am.
Yeah, I'm not as aggressive as Brett is.
Well, most of the time.
Most of the time.
There have been moments.
Where
I've
small
seen
ones.
The rage come about.
Little ones.
Yes. But this one we were trying
We've practiced not to do that.
We weren't quite to that. We were, I don't know what city it was.
Oklahoma City.
Was it Oklahoma City? Mm-hmm. And, it was busy traffic time. And so we were coming in, and we were coming off one highway, coming into the other, and there was a truck hauling a flatbed trailer. And, Miranda was ahead a little bit. And so, to merge in, it's like, to be nice or whatever, the guy should have let her, merge in, but he didn't want her in front of him, so he sped up, and blocked her out, so that then we ended up behind him. So to begin with, I was a little like, what a jerk. That was a jerky thing to do, So here we are behind him, and sure enough, not, 3-4 minutes later, something flew off the back of his flatbed, which we didn't know what it was, but, something flies off and, nowhere to go because we're in traffic, so we run over it. And I thought it was just a piece of cloth or something.
It was a plastic trash
bag.
A black plastic trash bag that was like, it wasn't a whole trash bag. It was all beat up looking. And
yeah. And I'm always like, if I run over something, make sure it goes out the back. And I sort of turned, but the car was packed, so I couldn't see everything, so I didn't actually see it come out the back. And I was like, oh, man, I hope that didn't get stuck somehow. And I was like, I probably just didn't see it because I don't hear anything, and, I'm sure it's fine. And so we went for a little bit. We drove down for a little bit. I don't know where it was, because eventually, all of a sudden, we heard this huge da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da.
Yeah, I'd say it was 5 minutes or less. But
yeah.
We did drive for a little bit.
For a little bit with nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And then, man, a huge, rattling sound and everything. And, pull over.
Yeah.
And what was interesting is, I did see Christian brother, because immediately I'm thinking, it's almost 5 o'clock, and we're in the downtown. We're going to end up staying here overnight in a hotel somewhere. I'm going to have to get the car towed, because it sounded bad.
It did. It really did.
I thought something in the engine.
And the tunnel's almost making it shake. Yeah.
That something in the engine went. And the more, she drove on the side, and I was holding the door open because the window doesn't roll down, which is another story. But I couldn't tell exactly where it was coming from. And so then I told her stop and then just rev the engine. And when she revved the engine, it didn't make that sound.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, it's not the engine, because it's only when we're moving. And then as we speed up, it got faster. The cooling got faster. Mm-hmm. So I was like, this is the axle, the wheel, something. But there was this, obviously, I hope this isn't just the guy's last name, but Christian Brothers Automotive. And so Miranda rode the shoulder. And
yeah, it felt like forever to get to the next exit. And then they were doing construction. And so there was the construction signs that we had to go around. Yeah, go around and wait on busy traffic, of course.
Coming zooming on you. But anyway, we got over there and got out of the car, and we drove in, and one of the mechanics was out there, and I said, hey, we were just on the highway, and I kind of explained what happened, and I had Miranda back up, and I said, and I've looked, I can't see anything, and he looked under, and he said, oh, I can tell you what it is. There's a trash bag wrapped around your drive shaft, and I'm like, oh my goodness. And so he said, why don't you go down and talk to the office, because they closed in like 40 minutes, 50 minutes. Like it was really close. So I went down, and I said, I told the guy there what happened, and the mechanic at some point walked in, and he's like, oh, geez, we're, really busy, and we're just about to close, and he turned to the guy and said, what do you got left, and He said, well, I got the one car over here, and then the second car is supposed to be done by, 5. And then the guy sitting on the computer said, oh, yeah, well, that one, it was a Toyota. It's a Toyota. He's not expecting it till tomorrow. And then the guy said, oh, well, I guess I don't have to do that until tomorrow then. And so they said, yeah, go ahead. And so he took the car in, and we all sat down in the waiting room. And here's a lovely picture of Miranda and Aspen sitting in the waiting room, who were having a much easier time dealing with this than I was. Look how happy and peaceful and serene they are. I'm on the other side, not looking so happy, peaceful, and serene. Anyway, at the end, they come in. I actually went to the bathroom, so they told you first, but I came out, and I was going to pay for it, obviously. It didn't take him but
5 minutes.
5, 6, I mean, really just had to cut it off, I guess. And they're like, oh, yeah, no charge. You don't have to pay for it. So I was like, oh, you guys are so great. And I, took a picture with them. And there's the one guy, the mechanic, and me, and the owner. I don't know if he's the owner or the manager. But they were great, and they took us in. They did it. They charged for anything. And, what are the odds that happened right there at the Christian Brothers Automotive,
That's true.
So then I had to feel bad about, wishing that, Boeing plane parts fell from the sky and landed on the guy that cut Miranda off and things like that.
Yes, well, honestly, I don't think I did that this time, but, there's always plenty of opportunity when you're driving, especially on the freeway and such, where someone will cut you off or whatever it is. And I remember reading a book a lot of years ago that said, stuff like that happens, just say to the other person in your mind, just say, bless you. And whenever I do that, I just have to laugh. I mean, everything just kind of dissipates whenever you say bless you, because it seems so incongruous to say that in a situation where the guy just cut you off, But, yeah. Anyways, the whole all things work together for good. And, we can't see behind the scenes physically or anything like that, but there's always that divine appointment with the heart when things like that happen. Because they're opportunities that God gives us to live out the power of His love in that situation. Like when you say bless you to the other person, it's a loving reaction rather than, even though you may not feel it right at that second. Like I said, it always makes me laugh when I say it. So it's we can either live out the words of God, take out the trash basically, or we can live out the trash, and yeah, that's not good for us, and it's not a good witness for who Jesus wants us to be.
Anyway, yeah. So when we were talking about the topic, taking out the trash, it made me more think of. So it wasn't a fun experience. It wasn't a great experience. It's not fun to have that happen to you on the road, and you can get ticked off and frustrated and, angry or whatever, and, and that's sort of like trash, those negative emotions and those negative thoughts and that kind of thing. And when you're talking about taking out the trash, it was like, well, what things, what kind of things do we have in our life? Sometimes, there's memories relive over and over again. And it's just human nature to think back about times where you did something dumb or stupid, or you looked foolish or embarrassed or something, and to relive those things, and hang on to those emotions, or, times where maybe you felt somebody wronged you, or, life wasn't fair, and that resentment against the person, or the, institution, your job, your school, or whatever. Taking out the trash can also mean letting go of some of those things that, just aren't good for us. And it's like living with trash in your heart. Yeah.
Yeah. And for people who are choosing whether to serve God or not to serve God, and they think that if they rebel against God, that they got freedom. Freedom, but that's not actually true at all, because if you rebel, you have less rather than more, less space rather than more space. And just think of Adam and Eve, for example. When they rebelled, they had less rather than more. And it reminds me of, I was driving down the road once, and I was sitting at a stoplight, and you can see the van across from me, and it was amazing, but this van was full of trash, just full of trash, and not just something that they were taking to the dumpster. But this, and they also had all this fast food trash starting to be lined up on their dashboard and in their front seat, and it looked like all the back. I hate to say it, but it honestly looked like it was all like fast food trash, basically. And all of that, keeping the trash like that, did not give them more space. It gave them less space. And honestly, like, if they had ever left any of their food in the trash bag, can you imagine how bad that stunk? You know, so yeah, it does not work in our favor, and we do not have more when we keep the trash. We definitely have less.
So it's a good thing to evaluate every now and then in your life. What things do you, what things do we have that we kind of hang on to or still knocking around in our heads, our hearts, or whatever? And even relationships. There's people in our lives that, sometimes we get into a connection or a friendship or relationship, and it's really not doing anything good for us. And, take a look at what things give you joy, what things take away your joy. And, taking out the trash may mean, dealing with some of these memories, dealing with some of these emotions, dealing with some relationships, whatever. We're not obviously getting into how to do all that today. It's just, there are many ways to do that, and many good books about that. And we've talked about it in other salts where we've talked about how to deal with, sometimes dealing with difficult memories and experiences and stuff. But yeah, it's good to take the trash out of our hearts and minds every now and then. And when you're I don't want to sound cliche, when your focus, your attention, your time, your energy is given to a connection with God, and a relationship with Jesus, and pouring stuff into that, the analogy, it fills you up and fill my cup, Lord, and I'm overflowing. But I like it. I like what you were saying more. It's not that it fills up and takes over everything. It gives you more space for more things. It gives you more space for love and giving grace and love.
Right. Because when we choose to live out the words of God, it's we have accessed that power. We allow the power of God to work in and through us, rather than choosing not to use that.
It's like becoming the companion of Doctor Who, and when you enter the TARDIS, it's bigger on the inside. It's kind of like that with a relationship with God. We become bigger on the inside.
Yeah, and sometimes we look at the opportunity to love, and like Brett looked at that, the guy, and he wished a spare airplane door would drop on the guy's truck or whatever, and yet we look at a situation like that, and we can't really see the advantages to us to be humble, because it looks like it's making us smaller. But you step inside of the humility of God's love like that, and we then realize and see how big it actually is.
Yep. So anyway, I thought that was good, taking out the trash. That's a good analogy. It's a good thing to do. So yeah. Anyway, both of those happened on the same trip, and both of them were a series of obviously small things, absolutely small things, but it was an interesting arrangement of small things that allowed, the phone to be found and also the car to be fixed. I mean, in just really cool ways, So yeah, God takes care of us even when we act not so wisely.
Yeah, because we do not have the power to make that kind of stuff happen. If your car is going to break down, you can't get yourself within 5 minutes necessarily of a place that's going to fix it. And we can't see the future. We can't see what's around the next curve, but God can, and that's why He's saying, "Come here and live out my love, because I know what comes next."
Yeah. Anyway, we had kicked around the ideas of like going to the zoo or somewhere else, but it's 90-something degrees here in Texas right now.
It is.
So we decided to stay indoors.
Yes, even though our Sabbath school class braved the heat for an
Yes.
afternoon picnic.
Yeah, out in the sun.
They're probably almost all of them true Texans.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
you know.
yeah. Except for John and his wife, but
Yeah.
everybody else, yeah, they're all Texans. They're used to it. But anyway, so all right, yeah, that's what we have today, and next we'll be here. Yeah, we're still in Texas for the next couple of weeks, and next Sabbath we may be talking about Revelation and the seals, because that's what Miranda's teaching in Sabbath school next Sabbath is the 6th and 7th seals in Revelation.
Brett is very optimistic about this. Very.
You should be there.
He keeps telling me I'm the leader. In the meantime, I tell him, as a leader, I can delegate. Brett
Delegate.
knows all about the
Yeah,
6th and
all
7th
right.
seal.
I know. Anyway, so we may be talking about that next Sabbath. So, all right. Well, hope you had a good Sabbath, and thanks for joining us. And we'll